We're going to talk a little bit about what does it take to write a book that will help you lead the world to greater harmony. And that's something that I care very deeply about. As a book coach and an editor, my world is all about books and the people who write them. And I'm really privileged to be able to do this work in the world. I've been doing it for quite a long time now, as we'll find out more about that in a few minutes, about my background with words. But it really is a privilege to be doing this work and to be recognizing the patterns in the work that people are doing and finding the path to helping people do bigger and more exciting things every day through the books that they're writing. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Really, what does it take to write a powerful book that will lead the world to greater harmony? What we're going to be learning about really are the foundational pillars of book writing success. A really great book isn't always a hit or miss thing. It's not necessarily dumb luck that somebody will write a book that suddenly is a huge runaway success by accident. That does happen. There are books that are incredible surprise hits, and a lot of the bigger traditional publishing companies will tell you that there are some New York Times best-selling books that were phenomenal successes in terms of sales, and they didn't predict that. They really didn't realize that that one particular book was going to be so successful. However, that being said, with most traditionally published books, there is a lot of craft and a lot of work that goes into making that book as good as it can be. And I think that in this world that we live in, where anybody can publish anything to Amazon and become an author, call themselves an author, that doesn't necessarily mean that the work that went into that book has resulted in a really great book. There are no barriers to entry to publishing a book on Amazon, particularly right now. And so I would really like to take a look today at, what does it take to write a really great book? Because as I say, it's not just a hit or miss dumb luck thing. There are certain predictable things you can do with your book that will help your book be really, really compelling. So I am going to make an invitation to people today also to consider working with me in our Mastermind program. I am currently running a Mastermind program for people who are writing a book in alignment with their divine source. We're starting another rendition of that. I have developed a second program that will be running as well, and it is similar to the first program that I'm running, but the focus is a little bit different, and I'll be telling you a little bit more about that. And let's talk a little bit about me. Maybe you're curious. Some of you know me really well. Some of you are new to my community. I'm an author, an editor, and a book coach. And really what I'm doing with my time on this planet is helping people harness the power of a good story to the goal of peace on earth. And we've been talking a lot about that over the last couple of days. What really is harmony? And how do we create more harmony? And I just loved what Susan Eva had to say this morning about harmony starting with oneself, that if we can create harmony within ourselves, then we can share that with more people. If we are unhappy and disgruntled and not doing well within our emotional selves and our bodies and our soul, our spirit, we're not bringing our best selves to the planet. And so harmony being an inside job, I think that as authors, we have the opportunity to create more harmony, particularly when we've done our work and we have a solid connection to our own sense of purpose on the planet. We are able to make incredible changes in the lives of other people just by showing up as ourselves. And that's the work that I do. I'm very much focused on helping people who are here to make a difference, to write the best books they're capable of writing so they can make an even greater impact on the planet, and we can create more of that harmony that we know exists. And again, helping people write the most profound and powerful books that they're capable of writing. So again, they can make the biggest difference on the planet that they can make. There is as I say, there is a predictable system to writing a great book. And I think once we're more aware of that, we can write much better books. So a little bit more about me. I did share this a little bit yesterday, and if you weren't here for my talk yesterday, I'm happy to repeat the story again. I was born in Dryden, Ontario, which is a very small town way up in northern Ontario. It's in the forest. It is surrounded by trees and rocks and lakes and moose and beaver and bears and not much else. And Dryden is a pulp and paper town. And I was very fortunate to have been born there and to have brought Dryden with me in my heart and soul wherever I have gone since I left. I'm very much a child of the North and very rooted and grounded in the Northland. It's my happy place when I'm there, and still have lots of family up there. I'm very glad to have people I can visit up in Dryden still to replenish myself. But I had a dream. So much as I was born in Dryden and loved being there, and then my family moved south when I was still a fairly small child, but my dream always, since I was a little girl, was to become a writer. And it was planted in me somehow. Cindy was saying to me earlier today that we each have a purpose. God has given each of us a purpose, and I do believe that. And somehow I figured my purpose related to writing, and because all I knew from the time I was really little was writing. And I can remember as a child climbing up into a tree in the backyard of our house with a tablet of paper and a pencil. And I would spend hours and hours and hours sitting up there in that beautiful tree, leaning against the trunk of this gorgeous tree, feeling safe and cradled and home, and writing and writing and writing and writing. And I don't even know what I was writing about today, but it was important to me then. And I never let go of that dream. And in fact, after I graduated from university, I was very fortunate to start working in a daily newspaper as a cub reporter, and enjoyed very much the chance to be part of a newsroom and just share the excitement of being able to write every single day of my life. And they paid me to do it. It was just remarkable and fun and exciting and a dream come true. And after the London Free Press, I went and worked with Canada's National Newswire Service, which is the Canadian press, spent a little bit of time there, after which I went to the Ontario Ministry of Health as their bilingual media relations officer, doing press releases, and I wrote speeches and briefing notes for the minister's use, and a lot of writing went on there, which was a bit of a shift from the writing that's done in a news organization, because when you're writing for the government, you are writing with an opinion to share, usually. After that, I went to Communicate Marketing Services, which is a full-service marketing agency in the Toronto area, where I was a marketing copywriter. Again, another application of writing, a big learning curve for me there, and ultimately became a freelance writer and editor and author. I will tell you a little bit more about my authoring story in a minute. But along the way, also spent 5 years as the managing editor for Global Food Safety Resource, which by the time we had left, Tanya was with me there too. She was in charge of all the social media for GFSR. And by the time we left, the GFSR had become the world's largest online food safety publication. So it was such an honor to have writing experience and editing experience with all of these organizations, and learned a lot, became a freelance writer. But, you know, there was another dream. And that other dream was to become a published author. And I thought, wow, you know, it's really amazing to get paid to write. But oh boy, if I could only become a published author, that would just be great. And then one day my husband came to me and he said, you know, you've been talking about publishing a book, writing a book for a really, 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 really long time. And my response to that was, oh, yeah, I really want to be a published author. I so want to write a book. I really want to do that. And he just looked at me and he said, what is stopping you? It was like the Jeopardy song started playing in my head, you know, doo, 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 doo. There was no answer to that. I was stopping me. And so that's the point at which I started working on my first book, which was a novel. I was pregnant with our blended family's fourth child. And I thought, okay, I've got lots of writing experience. How hard can this be? 9 months, make a baby, make a book, we'll be on our way. And in 9 months, the baby was ready and the book was not. And so That was kind of surprising to me because I had a lot of confidence in my writing ability, but somehow writing a book was different. And I didn't know what the difference was. I've since realized that there was a lot of self-doubt and imposter syndrome happening inside me that was getting in my way. And I really thought, well, who am I to write a book? And who's going to read this? And I don't know how to get a book published, and I don't know how to write a book really, but I was trying, and life was very busy, and we had another baby, and life went on for another 11 years. And then my husband was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and then he passed away. So as you can imagine, there was a huge reconfiguration of my life that was required in all of that. And one of the pieces of that was that I realized if I wanted to really see if I could become a published author, I had to get serious about it. I had to commit to the project and see what I could do in order to finish that manuscript, which was on its way. I'd been working on it, but it was nowhere near done. And just really make sure that I could zero in on the book and get it done, and which is what I did. So 2 years later, I was offered a traditional publishing contract, and my first book was born. And that was pretty exciting because that was the first of so far 5 books. The first book was a novel. The second book was a collection of short stories. My third book was about how to write more powerfully. And number 4 and 5 were marketing books, so nonfiction books as well. So what I recognized in the process of being an author myself and editing other people's books was that as I wrote that first book, I had no idea what I was doing. I had a lot of mind trash. I didn't have a process or a system for writing a book. I certainly didn't have a mentor to support me. And as I became more mature in my authoring and writing more books, things got easier and easier and easier, which was very interesting to me. And life got better and better and better. As I was writing my books and becoming the author that I wanted to be, I was saying yes to more things. Becoming an author is an evolution. There's an evolutionary process to becoming an author, and we might call that a transformational process. And the ironic aspect of becoming an author is that we claim our author status by writing our books. That one of the things that really holds a lot of people back is that when they embark upon the project of writing a book, they're not an author. They aren't. They haven't written a book. They haven't published a book. They can't really call themselves an author, and their brain knows that. However, in the process of writing the book and getting a book published, we are evolving into that author. We're moving towards the author that we're here to be. And of course, once that book is published, you can claim that author identity with a great deal of authority in a way that you can't when you're starting the book. So there is an evolutionary process to writing a book. There are a lot of interesting dimensions to that. And I certainly experienced that as an author myself, that it's a maturing process that happens. My life now is pretty exciting. And I don't know if it's because I became an author so much as the person I evolved into as I was becoming a stronger author turned into the kind of person who said yes more often. And this is just a slide of just a handful of the things that I've been up to in the last few years. I do a lot of speaking, but I also do a lot of traveling. And sometimes I'm traveling related to business and work, and sometimes I'm just traveling because I like it. And it's a much more expansive way of being now than I could ever have imagined 13 years ago when my first book came out. And it's, again, there's been a maturing process for me. And I see that a lot with a lot of the people that I work with. So now in the work that I do, I have a vision. And that vision is to create a heart-centered community of people who want to build businesses while making a huge difference in the world. And a real foundational part of that is our books. Our books can be a really vibrant aspect of our businesses that we can leverage to make more money and to have more impact. I think both of them are important. And for the people that I serve, they are also similarly looking to have more impact, and why not make more money? So then the question that I invite everybody to ask is, what does success look like for an author? And another like the kind of idiosyncrasy that I've seen show up in a lot of the people that I work with is that we have this idea of I want to be a successful author. I really want to be a successful author. I want to be a hugely successful author. But what does that mean? What does a successful author look like? And if we really drill down into what that looks like, I think that's an easier target to hit than some huge, big, generic successful author image. Let's take a real look at that. And I invite you to just kind of jot down for yourself, what does a successful author look like? It might be an author who sells 10,000 copies of their book. It might be just getting a book finished, get that manuscript done. That's very successful to get that done. It might be speaking on stages around the world and sharing your message. That might be success for you. We all have a different definition of what success is. And I think the more clear we are on what success is, the easier it is to hit that target, because it can be a little anticlimactic to write and publish a book. We don't want that to happen to you. We want, when your book manuscript is published, it's wonderful when that's the most proud, heroic, triumphant moment of your life. That's available to us. Earl Nightingale is, he kind of harkens back to the last century, but I think he was a very wise man. And his definition of success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal. He said, this means that any person who knows what they're doing and where they are going is a success. Any person with a goal towards which they are working is a successful person. And I really, really, really like that definition. I think that makes a lot of sense to me. And I invite you to incorporate that definition into your definition of success as well, that as long as you're working towards a worthy goal, you are a successful person. And for authors specifically, that means as long as we are working towards the publication of our book or even the completion of our manuscript, we are successful. As an author, if you want to experience success as a leader, now we've been talking a lot about leadership this week as well, that it's well known actually in speaking circles that if you really want to further your speaking career, you need to have a published book. You need to have written a book and published a book. And that becomes, they call it a calling card. I don't like that name, but I know that's used, but it's a portal to me. That published book is a portal to other experiences, one of which is more stages and bigger stages, bigger opportunities to say yes, bigger things to say yes to. And unfortunately, in our world, there is a perception that the book doesn't have to be well written. That if you can write a book in a weekend and get that off to Amazon and create an Amazon best-selling campaign so you can call yourself a best-selling author, you're successful. That's all you have to do. And in my model of the world, I come out of a very strict writing training. In all of the jobs that I ever had as a writer, I was overseen by some ferocious editors who had exceedingly high standards for how writing should look. And I was required to measure up to those standards as a reporter, as a government communicator, as a corporate communicator, and as a marketing copywriter. There were very stringent expectations around the quality of the writing, because when someone is actually hiring a writer to put out writing for them, that company's reputation is on the line. And your reporter, your corporate communicator, your marketing copywriter, whoever that is, they are the representatives of the company. And you are, it was really drilled into me. My writing had to be really good. We live now in a world where you don't have to really focus on the quality of the writing if you want to be an author. You just have to get that book out there and publish it, and that's all you need to do. And there is a purpose for that, and I don't want to diminish that, but in my world, we write carefully crafted books, compelling books. And a successful book to me is one that's well structured, it reads well, it has valuable information, and it generates a transformation for your readers. It also needs a great title and a terrific cover, and there should be something unique about that. But there are a lot of reasons why these books, these really good books, are hard to produce for most people. That, I come from a lot of training in writing, and certainly have studied book structure like you wouldn't believe. I love book structure. It's one of those really fun things. It's so geeky to love book structure, and I do. That's one of my fun little things that I study in my off hours. But it's not everybody's cup of tea. And so I recognize that although there is a perception out there that you really don't have to be a good writer or care much about great writing or structure your book well or anything in order to write a book, your chances of creating success for your readers and yourself are significantly higher if you invest in creating a well-written book. Your reputation is on the line there too. Your name is going on that book. Whatever's inside that book between those covers speaks for you, and it's speaking for you over 160 pages or however long your book is. Every single word that's in there is speaking to your reputation. And so I think that's an important thing, and I think that's worth investing in. So here are some of the challenges that people have with writing a really super book. And I call this the idea to impact issue. The challenge is that a lot of people, when they sit down to write a book, they dump everything they know into it. They just feel a little bit of panic because they know so much and they don't want to miss a chance to serve their readers with their information. So they pour all their information into the book, but not really writing it logically because they don't really have a sense of direction with the writing. It just comes out. So that's a bit of a problem because there's just too much overwhelming information that you're throwing at your reader. And another big problem that people have along with that, because they know so much, I work with a lot of very visionary people. And a visionary lives here. They live out in the vastness of the universe with great, beautiful ideas and concepts and dreams and big picture concepts like justice and equality and peace. And they're very big ideas. My clients float in the world of big ideas, but somehow they have to take their wisdom that lives here and bring it all the way down here to the reality of a published book, a small little package that will fit in a purse quite often, that has to contain everything that they want to share with their reader. And it is a long journey from up here down to here. And that's a big challenge for a lot of people, is what do you include and what do you leave out? And the problem with just sitting down and writing that way is people don't get their ideas across very well. They don't seem as intelligent as they really are because there's no discernment in the information that's getting shared within the pages of that book. And also some information that's important is getting left out, and the reader doesn't benefit really well from their wisdom. So these are kind of some of the mistakes that people make. The solution to that really is a really great outline, a book outline. Now, in the writing world, we have some people who are called pantsers, fly by the seat of their pantsers, and people who are plotters. So you're either writing a book as a plotter, usually. You plot everything else out. These people have an amazing outline because they've mapped it all out ahead of time. A lot of the people that I work with tend to be seat of the pants type people, and they just sit down to write, and there is actually no outline. And I have to say, for all of my organizational skills with language, I'm a seat of the pantser. I like to sit down. I know, Barb's surprised. When I sat down to write my 6th book, I just started writing. I sat down to write. That's it. And I had little sticky notes with ideas for chapters that I kind of wanted to cover. It wasn't an outline. It was just ideas. I had that written down. And that I was quite happy doing that till I had about 10,000 words written. And then I went, uh-oh, there's no structure here. This is really fun, but nobody's going to be able to read this because it isn't structured. So I stopped myself right then and there because it's easier to impose a structure on 10,000 words than it is on 60,000 words. And I decided what my structure was going to be. And ever since then, I've been writing to my structure quite happily because, I know it's important. But the real answer for any of those kind of problems with content, too much content, is to create a really high impact book outline. And I'll give you an example of somebody who we did this for. Alex Patterson came to me, and I worked with her as an editor on this project, but she came to me with a book manuscript. It was 230,000 words. That's about 800 pages. It would be in a finished book. That's a granddaddy of a book. And it was a family history for her. She has a really interesting family. They were pivotal in opening up Canada. Her family were way before the pioneers. They ran shipping lines between Great Britain and Montreal back in the early years of the 1800s, and they were very, very successful, and also early settlers in Canada. So it was an amazing story that she had to tell, and it covered 150 years, her book, 150 years of Canadian history, and a couple of hundred characters were in there, and it was all one chapter. One chapter. So she came to me and said, I think I need some help with this. and so we worked together to create the outline for her, and we ended up structuring that into 3 different books. But it was a huge, big project to create a structure from 800 pages of content. It was a really major work. And I think if she'd known how to structure a book, then she would have done that. But so some people don't have that gift. They don't, they've got strengths in other areas, and structure isn't always that one. So that's Alex's story, and that's one of the books. No Helping Hand is one of the books that came out of that. So another issue that people have is waiting for the divine downloads. Writing a book is something where we get downloads, and I'm sure everybody out here has experienced that blessing of the information just flowing through you. Who knows where it's coming from, but it just arrives, and you are magically able to type it into your computer, and often we read that and we go, wow, that's so good. Who wrote that? And it was us, but we received the information divinely. And that's a really beautiful way to write. Unfortunately, if we sit around waiting for the divine downloads to come, we might not get any writing done, because they come infrequently and they are typically a little unpredictable about when they're coming. Some people are waiting for the divine downloads that kind of come once every 3 months. And some people are also not too interested in following rules for writing. I work with a lot of freedom seekers. Ask me how I know a freedom seeker, because I'm one. That they don't want to follow somebody else's rules. And there are a lot of conventions in writing. Maybe we can call them rules, but there are a lot of conventions. And a freedom seeker really doesn't want to follow rules. They don't really want to use someone else's system for writing a book. And what we also find with that way of being is procrastination is a big issue. And again, our friend imposter syndrome shows up just about everywhere in the book writing world. And so that gets in the way of the book being born. The book doesn't arrive because people don't do any writing. They're either procrastinating or waiting for the divine download, and nothing happens, and 6 months go by and they said they were going to write their book this year and it didn't happen. And then that becomes a great tool for beating yourself up because you said you were going to do it and you're enormously successful in other areas of your life. And for some reason, you can't get that darn book done. And so I invite people to consider there's a question around process that goes along with that. The writing feels forced when you do it and not on point. And then if you really hold yourself back because you're kind of waiting for those downloads, and it's really easy to procrastinate because nobody is going to get hurt if you don't write a book. But the book doesn't happen. And what I think the solution for that issue is what I call the holistic book birthing process, where we work with you according to how you are in the world. I have a client who drummed her book. She has a great, big, beautiful drum. I think she made it. And she wrote a children's book of poetry. And she used her drum, and she drummed the book, that she would do some drumming and feel the words and then write that down. I have clients that also meditate. They go into a meditative state with a particular query on mind, and then what comes up during the meditation is going to be used to do the writing. So there are lots of different ways of doing that. If you're a hiker, go hiking. I mean, we need to put a little more structure around it by that. But if you're a kinesthetic individual and you think while you walk, then we can set up a system for you so that you're also writing your book while you're walking. Some people, we talked about auditory processing the other day. Some people have a really hard time making that connection between what's happening here and writing that down. Let's dictate that book, because usually if someone has a hard time with the writing part of it, they're great at speaking. And so they can dictate that book and get the content written that way. So there are a lot of strategies. We live in a world where I feel it's unfortunate that, we have a lot of write your book in a month and write your book in 6 months or 2 months or whatever, a short period of time. There's the expectation that that's easy to do, and somehow we should be able to do that. And in my experience as a writer, that's unrealistic. It is really hard to write an outstanding book in 2 weeks. It is possible, and some people have done it. But for most people, writing a book really quickly means not a very well-written book. And so, as I say, the solution is a holistic book birthing process that takes account of how you are in the world and what your priorities are. I have a client in my mastermind group right now who is writing a book courtesy of her divine downloads. She is an energy worker, holistic, intuitive medical practitioner. And her content has been created through the divine downloads. She speaks to her guides. She has a team of guides on the other side that are working with her in everything that she does. And she has recruited them into the process of writing her book as well. There's a lot of 3-dimensional versus 5-dimensional interplay in what she's doing. And so she has found a way to trigger the downloads and then uses that system to get the content written. And then she goes in and revises it from a linear process. Reading is a linear process. So ultimately, we need to package your writing in a way that makes sense to the linear mind of your reader. But how you get there could be almost any way. We can be a lot more creative about that. Another challenge is sometimes people, and especially in my world, I work with a lot of highly intuitive people, energy workers, coaches, healers, and so on. And sometimes the temptation is to just write the woo. They are so tuned in and tapped in to consciousness that when the download comes, and that maybe that's how they are choosing to write their books, is just waiting for the downloads. But when that download comes, it is beautiful and it's flowy and it's like a stream of consciousness, which doesn't make for good reading, unfortunately. Other people are distancing themselves a little bit from the woo and writing strictly from an intellectual perspective in the belief that will make them seem more learned, and therefore their material will be more seriously taken. And that's awesome too, but there's no heart in that. And then other people write only about themselves. So even a memoir can be about other people too. And you can bring your reader into a memoir, although it may only be about your story. It's actually not about you. Our book isn't about us, it's about our reader. And so it's really important to bring that reader into your book, even if it's a memoir, so that your reader can experience the wisdom that you have as well. The problem with any one of those options is that your reader doesn't engage with your information. You come across as self-centered or preachy or unhelpful. And also, ultimately, you miss opportunities to be of service to your reader. I think a book is a service to your reader. And unless we come at the book from that perspective, then we miss the chance to have the influence and impact that we want to have, let alone the positioning that we would like to see of ourselves as an authority on a topic. There's a balance there. And the solution to that is a purpose to profit book writing strategy. So that's a strategy that accounts for the philosophical and idea aspect of perhaps your modality or your way of being in the world, that balances that with revenue generating concepts, so that the book isn't just about sharing what you know, it's also about doing a good thing for your business so that you're able to leverage the book for revenue generation. And I'll tell you the story about my client, Tina Roisefeld, an absolutely amazing human being. Tina is a status Aboriginal individual in Canada. She is the product of the residential schools system in Canada, in that her grandmother was taken away from her family when she was just a little girl and put into a residential school. And what I hadn't realized until I worked with Tina was that one of the really negative impacts, aside from the obvious ones, of the residential school systems was that the children didn't learn how to become parents. There was no parenting training that normally would be passed on from parent to child in a family, and for better or worse, right? Some families have really good ways of parenting, and some families not so much. Well, in Tina's grandmother's case, she learned nothing about parenting skills. And so when she grew up and she had Tina's mom got no training in parenting, and they were kind of left to themselves. And then Tina came along. Her mother was 16 years old when Tina was born, and her mother was a drug addict. And so Tina was raised in a family, I think the father was an alcoholic as well. And so Tina was raised in a family that where the children kind of raised themselves. And it wasn't so great for Tina because along the way she was sexually abused. And that set her up for all kinds of challenges in life. She herself became an addict and an alcoholic. And she tells this story in her book, The Courage to Be True. And she was on her way to death's door. She was not doing well. She was Cindy mentioned the word functional alcoholic early today. Tina was an extremely well-respected emergency room nurse in Toronto and was able to hang on to her job. And then when she wasn't working, she was using, which did not make for a very happy life for Tina. And things went on. She was finally introduced to someone who brought her into Alcoholics Anonymous, introduced her to that and helped her get on her feet and onto a path of recovery. She's now been clean and sober for, I think it's about 10 years now. And something that I honor very, very much in people who've had addiction issues. It is a tough road for a lot of people. And I'm really impressed with how Tina has brought herself to a place of health and happiness. In her book, she has a lot of woo in her book and a lot of practical assistance and advice. Tina found a recipe for recovery, she called it initially. And it's a series of actions people can take to stay in a state of recovery. There are triggers for people for all of us, we all have triggers that send us into unhelpful behavior. And so Tina's particular interest is on people who are in recovery. And she has an amazing recipe for recovery for people, and which she shares in her book, The Courage to Be True. And so it's a remarkable book that she was able to structure and use in a way that shares the magnificence of her wisdom and her philosophy. But it's also a book that she uses in her business. She is a yoga instructor. She has had a yoga studio. Now, interesting thing that happened with Tina, after her book was published, she, of course, started speaking, which is one of the things we do when a book comes out. She was speaking, gained a lot more visibility. And when last heard from, Tina is now working in a holistic addiction recovery center in Costa Rica. So she's able to use the brilliance and wisdom of what she knows about recovery and about wellness, and also get out of the Canadian winters. So her book has been a really beautiful example of what can happen after you have your book published to your life as a result of that. Another challenge with writing a book is that a lot of people just see the book as a calling card, or they're writing a book that's only about strategy. Or the other big piece for me is that people don't see that book as a tool for healing and transformation for themselves, let alone for their readers. There is so much healing available through the writing of a book. I think most people that I know maybe do a lot of journaling, or they do a lot of meditation through writing and getting their feelings out through writing. It's incredibly cathartic. That's not a book, by the way. Journaling is not a book. Your journals don't make it a good book. There needs to be a lot of work around a journal to make it into a book. But that journaling aspect is something we can carry through into the book writing process, so that as you're writing your book, you are also opening to deeper transformations for yourself and for your spiritual wellness. And that's something that is really powerful and really important. And I think when people are writing a book in a week or a weekend, what they're not doing is a lot of investigation, personal investigation about who they are and who they're on the planet to be. That's available to us. There's huge transformation available. And we're shortchanging ourselves if we aren't open to that. Now, that doesn't mean every book has to be that at all. And if that's not the kind of book you're writing, of course, lean into what you're doing, whatever it is. There are lots of different ways to write a book. I'm not up here to say there's a wrong way to do it. there are some ways that lend themselves to deeper self-love, really, for lack of a better word. And that's what I've developed as a purpose to profit book writing strategy, where we embrace that aspect of writing a book while still keeping the eye on the ball of, okay, this book ideally is one that will also serve my business. So there's a way to do both. There's a fair bit of balancing that's required to do that, but it is available to us. And an example of someone who's done that impeccably is my client, Angela Wilson, who joined us in our mastermind group a couple of years ago now. Angela was one of those little girls who was consistently told to sit down and be quiet. And as a little girl and as a young adult, that's the message she heard over and over and over again, that she was too noisy, too rambunctious. And she took that on. She heard a lot of messaging that kept her quiet within herself. And so she came to a point in her life where she was miserably unhappy, terrified of speaking out, and just couldn't carry on that way. Got herself to some fabulous mentoring and coaching, and came to realize that part of her purpose on the planet is to help other women who, as little girls, were told to sit down and be quiet, whose programming was crushing their heart and soul. And so Angela decided she would write a book about that. Now, at the same time, Angela has been building a business of coaching women how to live out their dreams through their money. She's a CPA, so she knows a lot about money. But the dream aspect of money is the part that gets her really excited. So she helps women identify what their dreams are, and then bring the money, bring the finances around that so that they can actually afford their dreams. And that's when she wrote her book. Was, she realized that her business would benefit from having a book, and also her speaking career. But she also had a very emotional story that she wanted to share. And she has brought both of those two goals together beautifully in her book, Living Out Loud. She now travels all over the place speaking and running programs for women particularly. So that's a really nice example of what's possible. And then finally, our last point about the challenges of writing a book are that people don't really know what the book journey is like. There are 4 different models of publishing available to us. Well, which one is the right one? So people don't really know. Some people are waiting for divine guidance to look after it all. And I am a big supporter of that, because I think God source universe puts opportunities in front of us that we have the chance to say yes to. I'm a big yeser. But if we wait too long and we don't take a step for the universe to nudge us off in the direction that we make, we have so much inertia around the project that it just doesn't get done. And it can be really difficult to know who to trust to edit, publish, and to help you market your book. So there's a lot of confusion around that part of it, which means a lot of people waste a lot of time. And you can potentially waste a lot of money in book publishing and book marketing. It can be very, very expensive. And ultimately, the real bad part of that is that you're very disappointed with your authoring experience. And for me, the solution to that is having what I call an inspired author roadmap that lays out all the different steps along the way so that you know exactly what you're supposed to do and when. Somebody who's done that beautifully is our client, Wayne Throop. I've been working with Wayne for, again, a couple of years now, I guess. He first started in our 6-week program. We have a 6-week program to help people get started writing a book. And he mind mapped his book. That was the first thing he did. So he created a really great structure that worked for him, created a structure for his book. And then I guided him through all the different phases of the book editing, publishing, and marketing journey. And his book, The Reality of Real Estate, just came out about a month ago. And son of a gun, as it happened, he ended up having a speaking engagement at a national real estate convention, and where his book was featured. And he got incredible endorsements and incredible publicity for his book. And he was so proud because he knew ahead of time what he needed to do in order to hit that mark of being at this national convention. So those are just some stories of what's possible for people. Again, this is all about creating a step-by-step system that helps you listen to the whispers of the divine while having a system to create a book that you're proud to put your name on. And I'm inviting you to work with me with that. I have an Inspired Author Academy. It's a new mastermind group. And We have two levels of that. One is a mentorship and one is a mastermind group. So the mentorship is a lot more one-on-one attention from me. What we're doing with there, here are some of the components of that program. Is we start with an introductory program activation call with me, where I sit down with you and we go over your book. We pull that book out of you. If it's just an idea yet, I have systems and questions to ask that help people identify what the book is about. Some people already know, and I work with people wherever they are on that spectrum. We can be very flexible about where your starting point is, but we get that going. And then we have a 2-day online writers retreat where we will follow my idea to impact blueprint for mapping out your book to make sure that you're starting with a structure that's going to serve you well. And again, I am a seat of the pantser who values structure. So it is really important. And again, how we can figure out how you can follow a structure too, but not too closely, because if you're a highly creative individual, that'll make your eyes twitch. But it is, believe me, it is important to have structure in your book. There is also our holistic book birthing process, which we have, which really is 12 calls in a year that sit you down in a group of other people and help you make sure that you are bringing your mindset, heart set, all of it to the book writing process in a way that serves you and will serve your readers really well. Really leaning into your natural way of being with book writing. There isn't one way to write a book. I think there are infinite possibilities for getting that book content finished, and let's find the one that works best for you. We also have 12 monthly writing clinics where 1 or 2 people every month will submit examples of their writing, and the whole group will take a look at them. And I will edit that so that you get feedback along the way of your writing. You learn to know what you're doing that's really, really hitting a home run with readers, and what maybe isn't landing quite as well that you might want to work on a little bit. So I do a little bit of teaching around writing usually, so that people are getting best practices around writing and learning some of those conventions that people need to know in order to write really fluidly and really powerfully. And then we also have 4 one-on-one calls with me directly, so that I can check in on how the book's going and give you any insights and tips and suggestions for making that book as powerful as you possibly can make it. We also have a half-day virtual book publishing training to map out your publishing plan. Like I say, there are 4 different ways to get a book published. What's the best one for you? And there are different price points attached to each model of publishing, and you're giving up different things with some of them than others. So there's no real perfect publishing model, but there is one that will suit your quest the best. So your why drives your publishing, and I can help you figure out what that's going to look like. I also have a network of phenomenal, heart-centered, quite often highly spiritual people who are in the book publishing and book marketing world, who understand the language of the universe. I mean, if we want to call it that way, or at least are seekers of understanding, and who can treat you and your book with the respect and the love that book deserves. We also have a half-day virtual book marketing training to map out your marketing for your book. So a lot of people will go through and get their book finished, their book manuscript finished, maybe get to publishing, but that marketing piece is not everybody's favorite piece. Like, a lot of people really resist marketing. They're kind of afraid of it. To me, marketing is just about helping you get more visibility. So what do we need to do to help you and your book have a little more visibility so people can find you? The people who need what you have can easily find you. And that's what marketing is, and that's what we do in this book marketing training, so you can figure out what that looks like for you. We also have a full-day virtual purpose to profit book writing retreat, where we are focused on writing the content of your book. Let's just get her done, sit and write. And it's kind of like the writing retreats I've been talking about lately, where we sit down and write. And I have an approach to that most people find is quite doable. Also, we're including in that your own mobile app. In our Visionary Authors app community, we have a mobile app called the Visionary Authors, and everybody who signs up for the Mastermind, the Inspired Author Academy Mastermind group, will get their own app in our app as well. It's an independent app that opens with all your content, not mine, but people have access to my content too, but really it's your app that you can do as you wish, and 12 months of paid subscription to that. And then, of course, 12 monthly 2-hour online writing retreats, which is part of our ongoing writing retreats program, to sit down and write. And we're also including in this, we have, I hope nobody's too overwhelmed yet, but Tanya and I have created 2 libraries of book marketing and book publishing training videos. Each of them have at least 30 hours of training in each. So 30 hours of book publishing training and 30 hours of book marketing training. And you get access to all of that so that you can educate yourself about some of the different possibilities that are out there for you and your book, to really land that book on a much bigger stage, so you and your ideas can have the impact that you're dreaming of having, but also so that you and your business can be promoted and expanded and reach more people, serve more people. We also have 24 community access. We are through a private channel. We're working that on Slack, and VIP access to all Crossman Communications Awakening Author events. We run a lot of events in a year. We have a Build a Book community meeting about every second month. We have the Conscious Leaders Book Writing Tele Summit. We run that once a year. We've got this event, and we have a lot of other things that if you're in our mastermind community, you're brought into everything for no charge at all. And again, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but introductions to my network of heart-centered, spiritually oriented professionals in the fields of book writing. Yeah, who are all sitting right here in this room, by the way, in San Diego. These people you need to know about. And there are even more. And it's really interesting. I've been working really hard over the last couple of years to find my way to professionals in the book publishing and marketing field who speak the language that I speak, who speak the language of the heart, who understand that we are heart-centered individuals, not just head-centered individuals. We come from our heart. We need to include our heart in everything that we do and lead with our heart quite often. And also, there is a really practical implication to the work that we do. If we want everything we do to succeed at the highest levels that are possible for us as change makers, we have to be quite practical and professional as well. So I've been looking for the people who do that, who are highly professional and also understand that there is divine guidance coming through in everything that we do, and that there is a way to integrate that. And so the people that I've been finding in my community as professionals to refer people to are the people who get that. And they might not be exactly the right fit for you. And if someone I introduce you to isn't, we'll find someone else. You can have a conversation with someone else. Also, library time twice a month in our Inspired Author Academy private Zoom room. And it's a chance to just sit down and work on your book. It's dedicated library time in our Zoom room. We put a beautiful picture of a library up. Tanya is a champion at finding gorgeous pictures of lovely reading rooms and libraries around the world. We put on some nice music, nice writing music, and people just come for 2 hours twice a month and work on your book. So it's in your calendar. And if it's in your calendar, that means it should be getting done, right? Also in our Inspired Author Academy is Actionera's, I guess, Ultimate Course Formula. I guess that's Iman Algaya, CEO, is co-founder of Actionera, along with Robert Evans, who's with us here today. He has the Ultimate Course Formula, which is an 8-week program on how to create an online course. I went through that training when I was first doing my first online course, and it was so powerful and so practical. And I think anyone who writes a book and who wants to be a speaker probably should have a course too. And so Iman has very generously, or Actionera generally, has generously allowed us to package that program into our Inspired Author Academy. And also a very good friend of mine, Janelle Anderson of Emerging Life Coaching. She is a speaker coach, and she has a program called Own the Room. Design and deliver your captivating talk from any stage, which is a 6-week program training people to become stronger, better, more empowered speakers, which again, if we want to make a difference in the world and in our business, we really need to be able to stand up on a stage fearlessly and share our message with that. And then finally, community, accountability, and support, and a deeper connection to your mission and your vision as an inspiring author. And I'm kind of running over time, so I'm just going to go a little more quickly through these slides, but this is just a summary of everything that's included in this package, this Mastermind, the Inspired Academy, Author Academy Mastermind program. A lot of things that have been packaged into this. It might be a little bit overwhelming, but if you can't find a way to write a book with this program, then I want to know why. Because I have sat down and I have tried to put everything in it that anyone could possibly need, including me, including my wisdom and my support and my love and my knowledge about book writing and all the rest of it. I'm here for you. The price is $9,997. Total value of the program is 38 grand. So, but I'm offering that here at just under 10,000 US. So we're making that available. If you do want to add in the one-on-one coaching, 6 months of one-on-one coaching, which is 4 hours a month, that's another $9,000, which is actually a pretty good deal compared to what my normal coaching fees are. But you can also opt for that if you like. This program is for heart-centered, mission-driven people who are focused on making a difference in the world and in their businesses. It's for people who need a logical system that plays with possibility, and people who want to write a compelling book in alignment with their divine guidance, and who recognize that although it's challenging and complex process, that with the right system and the right compassionate mentor, you can do that. This is not for people who want to write a book as fast as possible, to use as a business card and then leverage it to become an Amazon best-selling author so everybody will know how important they are. Those aren't the people I serve. There's a space for that here in the world somewhere, but it's just not my niche. It's also for people, it's also not for people who don't believe in a higher power and who are disdainful of those who do. And I think probably everyone who does have a divine belief and a belief in a higher power has probably run into people somewhere along the line who just think that's poppycock. And those people who think it's poppycock probably would be highly uncomfortable in my community. So that's probably best to stay away. And also people who don't recognize that writing a high quality book is a craft and requires a sincere commitment. If you don't really take this book writing stuff seriously and really don't want to make it a really compelling, powerful book, and some people don't, and there's nothing wrong with that. There are different reasons why you're doing it. But if that's what you're looking for, then again, this just isn't the right place for you. I have been honored by a lot of beautiful testimonials from people over the years, and there's a bunch of them here that we've included. We won't stop because I'm running over time. Today is the best time to invest, this weekend, because our first class is November 12th. And if you want to be in on it, that's when the rubber hits the road. And this is a pretty good price for what you're getting. And again, your book may already have been on the back burner for a while, and if you keep doing that, you might never finish it. Every year in January, I talk to people who want to write a book. And usually around about September, October, I check in with them again to see how the book's coming. They don't feel they need assistance with it. They're going to do it on their own. And September, October rolls around and there's still no book, and it's still a good idea. And I actually talked to a lady last year sometime who had been planning to write a book for 40 years. And she first had the idea 40 years ago, but life was busy, and she kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and finally found her way to me. And I said, well, are you interested in writing your book now? Like, how long has this been that you've been thinking about it? Oh, 40 years. I said, are you ready yet? And she said, no. And I felt so sad that she had within her such wisdom and such strength and such resilience and so many great stories. And yet, although she really wanted to write a book, she couldn't say yes. And I think we've been talking about yes a lot here this week, that that yes piece allows you to get on with everything that comes after. And so I really highly encourage you to say yes to this program. If you feel this is aligned with your book writing goals, then come on, let's play together. The process for doing that, we can break that down into, if you want to do a one-time only payment, then we'll waive the $495 setup fee. If you want to do that right now, then fine, let's pay the whole thing all at once. Or if you'd like to set up monthly payments, then we will ask for a $495 setup fee to book a call with me to make sure this is the right fit for you. I don't want anybody in the program where this is the wrong fit for any reason. And the process is that you'll pay that $495 setup fee. We'll get on a call. We'll talk it over. We'll make sure this is the right fit for you. And if it is, then we'll set you up with monthly payments so that you can pay for it in a monthly payment, or perhaps a different payment strategy is going to work for you. I'm open to other ideas as well. But we don't just get you set up and, if you pay your $495, you have to take the program. No, that's just to make sure that it's the right fit and that you're going to be able to thrive in that program. And Tanya's going to be putting the link in the chat box. Just in case you're wondering, we do offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you get into the program and after up to 30 days, you decide, yeah, this isn't going to work for me, that's okay. We'll give you your money back and you can go on your way and do it a different way. So again, if you're ready to join, you can pay in full and save that $495, or we can set you up with monthly payments. If you have questions, reach out to Tanya right now. Give her, ding her in the chat box, and she'll pass those questions along. Again, another summary of all the things. And if you go to one of those links, I think it does list all of the benefits of the Inspired Author Academy. You'll see the full list as well. I'm going through these quite quickly. Again, and then just the question that I ask is, how might your life change? What if? What if you wrote a book? What if you wrote another book, if you've already written one? What if you wrote the book that you've been dreaming about writing? What if that happened? What would happen? So I will leave you there now. Thank you so much. We've had a wonderful time, and I appreciate your time and attention. And yeah, if you have any questions, let us know. And but I'd love to play with you. I love playing book. Thank you.